Hey, hello Bio 2. We're going to continue on with Annelids, Part 2. So we talked about response in their last one, so now we're going to continue on with their essential functions. We're going to talk about how they move. So annelids will have two groups of body muscles that function as part of a hydrostatic skeleton. So they have longitudinal muscles that run from the front of the worm to the rear, and they can contract to make the worm shorter and fatter. So that's their first type of muscle, is muscles that can contract to make the worm shorter and fatter. And there are also circular muscles that will wrap around each body segment, and they can contract to make the worm longer and thinner. So we've all seen how an earthworm kind of moves, and that kind of explains it, because they can alternately contract these two sets of muscles. The circular muscles will make them long and thin, and then they contract the other muscles, the longitudinal muscles, and will make them short and fat, and that is how they move. And then the earthworm being the example, and we've all seen that before. And so for reproduction, so most annelids will reproduce sexually, and then some species will use external fertilization and have separate sexes. So again, when they have separate sexes, it's external fertilization. So other annelids are hermaphrodites, and these would be the two worms attached to each other. They'll exchange the sperm, and then they store the sperm in special sacs, and then that's again kind of a unique characteristic to this group. And after they store them in sacs, when the eggs are ready for fertilization, a clitellum will secrete a mucus ring into which the eggs and sperm are released. And then the clitellum is a band of thickened, specialized segments. And after the eggs are fertilized in the ring slips off of the worm's body and forms a protective cocoon, and the young worms hatch weeks later. So that's a pretty unique process there, but they store the sperm until it's ready, until the eggs are ready, and then this clitellum comes along, secretes a mucus ring that kind of brings the sperm and the egg together, and they're fertilized, form a cocoon, and the young worms will hatch weeks later. So that's it for the basic functions of our annelids. So now we're going to look at what are the three classes of the annelids. So we have what are known as oligochaetes, leeches, and polychaetes, as I believe how I'm going to pronounce those. I don't know if I'm saying them 100% correctly, but bear with me. So oligochaetes contain earthworms and their relatives. So these typically have streamlined bodies and relatively few setae compared to polychaetes, and most oligochaetes will live in soil or fresh water. So that's our first group, contains the earthworms. They have more streamlined bodies. So our next would be leeches, and they are found in what is known as the class Hyrudina, and this contains, or Hyrudina, and this contains the leeches. And leeches are typically external parasites that suck the blood and body fluids of their host. So I think we've all heard of leeches before, probably more horror stories than anything. And leeches will have powerful suckers at both ends of their body that will help them cling to their host. So they have, again, like maybe some suckers, again, not just at their head, but on their tail as well, to help them cling to the body of the host. And some leeches will force a muscular extension called the proboscis into the tissue of their host. So that is how they obtain the blood, is by shooting this proboscis into their host. However, others will slice into the skin with a razor-sharp pair of jaws. So there's two options for a leech, how they can get in. They can really just jam this long muscular extension called the proboscis, or they can cut you open with a razor-sharp pair of jaws. And then the leech will use its pharynx to suck blood from the wound. And then some leeches will release a substance that anesthetizes the wound, which again, that just simply means it kind of like almost numbs the area, because it will keep the host from knowing that it has been bitten. So they release a substance so you don't know that you're being, so the leech lands on you, releases a substance, you don't know you're being bit, so it can suck all the blood that it needs before it will, so you will not remove it until it is ready. And then some leeches also release something into your blood called an anticoagulant, which will keep your blood from clotting, so the blood will just flow right in. And leeches were once used to treat medical conditions, and I believe today there are some medicinal practices still used with leeches. And so our last group, called the polychaetes, so these include things that are known as sandworms and bloodworms and their relatives, and these are typically marine annelids that have paired paddle-like appendages tipped with setae. And the setae, again, are just brush-like structures on the worm that will help them move. And so then the big thing being appendages, would just be like our appendages are our fingers, our arms, and our legs. So they kind of have paired appendages that look like paddles. And so that is going to be their main characteristics, again, knowing that they're the marine groups. And so ecology of annelids, so how do they kind of affect the rest of the living world, living and non-living world around them? So earthworms and many other annelids spend their lives burrowing through soil, aerating and mixing it, and then they also help plant matter decompose. And then earthworm castings, which casting is just a fancy way to say earthworm droppings or earthworm feces. They are rich in nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, micronutrients, and also beneficial bacteria. So earthworms do play a big role in ecology. So that is it for chapter 27, or not for chapter 27, section 3. Let me know if you have any questions.